You are literally killing your Canna Lilies from these 5 critical mistakes. The first mistake is to plant your Canna Lilies in poorly drained waterlogged soils. Now these plants, they are from the tropics of the Americas, and they do like to be kept in a regularly moist, well-drained soil. And I know there are some of you out there saying right now, "Here, Simon, I think you find that cannas are quite happy living in waterlogged soils. Some of them are actually grown as marginal plants where they're submersed constantly in a pond." Nobody really talks like that. And to be honest with you, what they say is true. But there is a big problem with that. You know, one of the problems is keeping your Canna Lilies in cold, wet conditions. God forbid you keep them in freezing wet conditions, because this can kill off the roots, damage the tubers, open up the whole root system to soil-borne fungal infections, which can kill off your plants. No! But there's another problem you need to be aware of. Pigeon. Growing your cannas in overly wet conditions increases the risk of the disease known as Canna Rust. You can spot it because it produces orange spots on the leaves, and you cannot apply any chemical treatments to cure this plant. If you do see Canna Rust on your leaves, you will need to remove those infected leaves and burn them. Do not put those into your compost heap. Now, it is possible to spray these plants with a copper fungicide in order to reduce the incidence of the disease happening. But once you've got it, you've got it. There's nothing you can do about it. If you don't deal with it, your plants, once more, will die. Critical mistake number 2 is to not provide enough sunlight for your Canna Lilies. And I'll tell you why, because you might think this isn't much of a problem. You will still get growth, you will still get flowers if you're growing it in a partially shaded condition. In heavy shade, no, your plants will become stunted, they won't produce enough foliage, they will be outcompeted by the surrounding plants. It's a waste of time, waste of your money, and over time you'll become weaker and weaker and weaker until eventually it will just give up the ghost. But if you plant it in dappled shade, semi-shade, where you will get growth, you will get flowers, you'll get very soft growth, very weak growth, and that is attractive to biting insects such as aphids. And although that isn't a massive problem, this is. Biting insects are vectors for transporting diseases from one plant to another. And one of the biggest problems that we get with our Canna Lilies is the Canna Lily virus. And we were going to talk about that in mistake number 5. But there's something else you need to know. In order to get the very best displays out of your Canna Lilies, you need to provide them as much sunlight as you possibly can. In fact, you need to provide an absolute minimum of 6 hours of direct sunshine, our kid, every single day. Critical mistake number 3 is to not have your plants overcrowded. Now this can be either caused by you planting way too many together, or allowing a clump to expand. If you have a large clump or far too closely planted plants, you reduce good ventilation passing through the plants. You also increase competition between the individual plants, which can weaken them. So if you have weakened plants, poor ventilation, once again the evil ugly head of fungal infection starts to arise, and you have the same problems that we have with the too much water in the soil. You can get Canna Rust amongst other fungal infections. So firstly, don't plant your plants too far together, and if you are finding you've got a rather large clump developing in the autumn, maybe early spring, lift it, move it, propagate it, have more Canna Lilies, but at least they will be healthier than just leaving them as they are. Stop being lazy, stop making so many mistakes. I don't blame people for their mistakes, but I do ask they pay for them. Now, you remember at the beginning that I said that Canna Lilies are from the tropics and subtropics of the Americas. Yet, our clever plant scientists have managed to produce many hybrids which express increased cold hardness as part of their hybrid vigor. And that means that in many parts of the UK, you can overwinter cannas outside, no problem at all. But just be aware of this: -10 will kill off a canna root very easily. Anything below -5 will cause damage, may not kill it, but they can be killed off by these secondary fungal infections because the root's been damaged, it's got these open wounds, these diseases can get in. So there are two things you need to do. Firstly, after the first frost and the stems have been damaged, you need to remove those because all that damaged plant material can take in fungal infections. We're talking a lot about fungal infections, but then it's the reality of gardening. Secondly, if you live in the milder parts of the UK, you could leave your cannas in the ground. You don't need to do anything else. But I would recommend putting down a thick layer of a dry mulch, something like bark chips, mini bark chips. Place that on top of the where the root mat is. Try and keep it off where you've got your old stem still there, and that will give you protection against ground penetrating frost. If you live further north, where the temperatures get colder, you might need to lift those root balls up, put them on, place them somewhere where it's going to be frost free, something like a garage or maybe a greenhouse. Really does depend. It's your decision, it's your house. You know what part of it is frost free, and keep it there. I think I've covered everything about winter protection. If you don't do it, you can easily lose your plants. Critical mistake number 5 is to do with the Canna virus, and it's a big problem, and you're probably not going to like what I have to say about it. And can I also say that I've had an absolute devil's own job trying to get some decent cannas, not just this year, last year. Even when you go to the pre-pack sections in the spring, where you would expect to find a big range of these Canna lily roots, these sort of tubers, I've hardly seen anything. And I really wanted to get some of those very tropical, very ornamental foliage plants this year, and I couldn't find any anywhere apart from one place. And that one place was Thompson and Morgan. I know it sounds like an advert, it's not really. Thompson and Morgan. I got it online, look. It's the only place I managed to find them. Anyway, thank you to my friends at Thompson and Morgan, because actually done me proud, got me a really decent specimen. I've got another one of these coming. So if you too are really struggling to find some decent Canna Lilies, and pop over to Thompson & Morgan. I do have one of those QR codes that you can just stick there, pick on that, or I'll put a link in the description. So if you can't find what you want, hopefully they still got some left, at least they're decent size. And look at that lovely coloration on the foliage. That is not Canna virus. Let's talk about Canna virus in a bit more detail. Canna Yellow Mottle Virus and bean yellow mosaic virus are two uncurable viral infections of canna plants. They are bad. They cause stunted growth, yellow streaking of the leaves, and colour breaking in the flowers. I actually quite like colour breaking in the flowers. Let me show you two to compare. So, stunted growth, look. This is a Canna Canova that I overwintered last year. Looks absolutely fine. In fact, you've even got some flowering spikes turning up on it. Really like this one. This, by comparison, two hands, is Cleopatra. This one does have the virus on it. Now, you've got a colour breaking leaf anyway with that sort of like rich burgundy colour, but you can start seeing there's some yellow streaking in there as well. Obviously, so much more stunted than the other one. This is a problem. This one is going to be chucked in the incinerator. And I'll tell you why you need to do that. First reason is that there are no chemical sprays you can apply to this to kill it off. So once it's got it, it's going to keep going. This sort of stuntedness is just going to continue until the whole thing's dead. But it's worse than just one plant having the virus. The virus is easily transferred to healthy plants from soil-dwelling nematodes, from biting insects such as aphids that bite into the soft parenchyma cell, absorb some of the virus-infected sap, fly off with their little wings, flappy flappy, get onto your next canna lily, bite into it. Job done, virus is in the plant, you got two infected plants. And the third reason that this can happen, and it's your fault, because as I said before, never cut into sick plants without sterilizing your blades. Oh my God, the amount of times that happen. If you are cutting into infected plants and you're thinking, why would I do that? Well, deadheading would be one of the reasons with Canna Lilies, because it helps improve your flowering display. You don't cut into a sick plant, then cut into healthy plants, because you get infected sap on your blade and you're cutting that into your healthy plants. So this is a big problem. Easily transferable, kill off your plants. If you spot it, got a lift, burn. Don't put it in your compost heap. And that's all I have to say about that. So there you go. That's my 5 critical mistakes for you to not do to your canna lilies. But of course, there are other issues with canna lilies that I haven't spoken about at all, and I'm not going to, because I only said I was going to do 5. But this is now your opportunity to put that into the comments. Put in your experiences, any big mistakes you've made about the canna lilies. All this helps our viewers who read the contents to learn more about these plants. It enables them to grow better plants, better displays. Thank you for watching. Hopefully see you in the next video. Before I go, just check out that one. That is an excellent one. Watch that one now.